Hello, and welcome to another episode of my little internet show that I do, the Procrastinate Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Tito Bob. We're bringing you a new episode of this thing that I do. I'm currently on day 8 of 12 days working in a row, and I'm right at as you can tell, I'm right past the middle, sort of on the downslope to the end. I guess what you would probably define as like the hardest part, maybe. It's like the end's not quite in sight, but it's coming up. And when I say the hardest part, it's really not that hard at all. I've actually very much enjoyed working these past 8 days. It's been kind of a blast. I enjoy working. Obviously, I like having days off, but with my schedule, how it works out is if I work on a day, I work like 5 hours out of that day. I typically work like 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's kind of about the generic window that I work for a basketball game that normally starts at 7 p.m. I mention that just because, one, that's what's going on in my life. That's what I'm doing right now. But also because at the beginning of this stretch, last Tuesday, I was working a Butler men's game, and I was on a handheld, meaning the camera's on my shoulder, and I was under the basket, and I was filming the game for the Jumbotron in-house. And I was doing my thing, getting the shots, doing my best, doing what I can to give the best shots to the director. And then after the game, as we were wrapping up, so at every sporting event, every Butler game, there's at least 2 broadcasts going on. There's the in-house broadcast, which is just on the Jumbotron. And then there's like the Fox Sports broadcast, which is nationally broadcast, probably the one that you would watch if you were to watch Butler basketball. So with that, there are me under the basket, but then there's also the Fox people on the other side of the basket, also under it, with another handheld. And at the end of the game, as we were wrapping up, the guy that I was sitting on the other camera for the Fox broadcast, some more professional, more experienced cameraman than he gave me a fist bump and said, "Hey man, I saw some of your replays, keep it up." And this came from a guy that I've seen a few times before. I've worked 1 or 2 gigs with maybe before, but I don't really know him that well, and there's a good chance he doesn't remember me. So for him to take time out of his wrapping up, not like it took a lot of time, just a few seconds, for him to take time to recognize me as a person, first off, and say hi to me, but also to then take the time to acknowledge that I'm a decent cameraman and give me a compliment, telling me to keep it up. It kind of reminded me a lot of why I'm doing this and why I set myself up to work 12 days in a row. It's because I love this shit, and I'm actually kind of good at it. And it's just, I was thinking about it yesterday, and people say, oh, try and find a job that doesn't feel like work. Try and find a job that doesn't feel like you're working when you're doing it. It just comes naturally. And while that's very cliche, I have found that. I have actually found that in my life. And that's the job that I have. And there were several months ago, I was like, oh, is this what I want to do? Do I want to get a different job that's easier, more reliable, more consistent? But when it is consistent, it's like the best thing in the world. It pays me well, it's fun, I'm at sporting events, I'm just chilling, living my life, getting paid to go to sporting events, and that's still the craziest thing that can possibly happen to me. But shout out to my guy Brian. I don't remember his last name, I just know his name is Brian. Thanks for taking the time to acknowledge me and just give me a little boost, just a reminder that, oh, I'm doing this shit and I can do this shit. I'm actually not too bad at it, especially when I give it a good old college try. So that felt good. That felt really good, and it kind of encapsulates the little work vibe I'm on right now of 12 days in a row. Okay, beyond that though, the other thing going on in the world is the World Cup, and the semifinal between Argentina and Croatia is about to kick off like right now. So I'm gonna do some quick research, and I'm gonna come back to you for a review or a preview of the rest of the World Cup. One moment. Fuck it. I'm going to talk off the brain. I'm going to talk about what I know just in my head. So Argentina versus Croatia. Lionel Messi kind of versus Croatia, but also Luka Modric, who plays for Real Madrid, and Lionel Messi plays for Paris Saint-Germain in Paris. After leaving Barcelona in the dramatic fashion, we've covered that in the podcast. It's really Messi's year. Not saying he deserves to win, but if he's going to win any year, it's this year, since he failed back in 2014 against the Germans. In their head-to-head matchups, Argentina versus Croatia, Argentina has come out on top, having 2 wins. Well, actually, sorry, I lied. They're tied all time in their head-to-head series, with Argentina with 2 wins and Croatia also with 2 wins and 1 draw. between the two of them. Argentina often, this is a problem they've had since having Messi. They have Lionel Messi, but they don't have the supporting cast to really build a super team around him. They have good role players and they have the patriotism and the fighting spirit to win, but they don't have the truly just skilled players to help push them to victory like Lionel Messi himself. He's probably the ultimate just skilled player that can push you to victory. Whereas Croatia, they're much more team-oriented. They dominate the midfield. Their midfield is one of the best in the World Cup because all of their respective midfielders are world-class and dominate in their own leagues, such as Luka Modric. But not only that, they have a team. They have young people in they have young players in their defense. They have good players in their attack. They have an overall good squad, and with that, with the, again, patriotism that they play with and the unity that they show, they play incredibly well as a team. And really, I think the team aspect is much more dangerous than the sole leadership of Lionel Messi. And I hate to make predictions because I'm always wrong, but my heart wants Lionel Messi to win just because of the storyline for him to actually win a World Cup, but also I could really see Croatia winning and going to back-to-back World Cup finals because they lost and fell ultimately to France in the 2018 World Cup just 4 years ago in Russia. Which now takes me over to the other semifinal match, which involves France. France versus Morocco. Now this is one that I probably should do a little bit of research for because Morocco are the biggest underdog I've seen in the World Cup, maybe in my life, unless you want to count Croatia in 2018. And Denmark, I guess, as well. But Morocco somehow managed to finish atop their group, in a group with Croatia, who's in the semifinal, Belgium, who was, I believe, maybe the number 1 seed coming into the tournament, and Canada, a team that's sort of up and coming, kind of another North American team that kind of just gets glazed over, but it was a group that was kind of up in the air. Really could have anything could have happened going into it, but most people expected Belgium and Croatia to go through. But Morocco, against all odds, finished on top of their group to go through and carried that momentum to get 2 dramatic wins over Portugal. Oh, fuck, I should know. Portugal and Spain. They beat Spain on penalties, and they beat Portugal in regular time despite getting a red card. So tomorrow at 2 p.m., the Moroccans face up to the mighty, mighty French, and not much needs to be said about the French. They're led by Kylian Mbappe, but they have much more than that on the team. They're truly probably the most well-rounded and best team in the World Cup, but they were sort of kind of written out because it's hard to go back-to-back in World Cups. That's a very rare thing that happens. They still have a lot of work to do, but realistically, I don't see much of a challenge from Morocco. I think their steam is going to run out. Their fight may end, although they would be the first ever African country to make it to a World Cup final and first ever Islamic country to do so as well. And for them to do that in Qatar, an already Islamic country, that would be truly profound, and I think for the Islamic world would be massive. So that's an interesting storyline. Realistically, I see France. And then it's just hard to predict out of Croatia and Argentina. It really could go either way. Part of me wants a replay from 2018, part of me doesn't. Not really sure, but ultimately I see France kind of running away with it. I don't really see either team that can beat them unless Argentina on pure spirit can prevail. But beyond that, it's going to be hard to see France getting bested in any way, but we shall see. We shall see. Morocco are going to do their damnedest tomorrow to put an end to France's march to the final. It would be pretty wild to see Morocco in the final, but if it was to see Morocco-Argentina final, that would somehow take away points from Messi because, I don't know, they're not playing a great team in the final, but you never know. We will see. The Argentina game is going on right now. I'm going to end this week's podcast here. France is going to be the winner of the World Cup. That's my prediction. Being a sports media professional is cool. I love sports. The World Cup is cool. Viva Madrid. Yeah, that is all for this week's episode of the Procrastinator Podcast. I will see you in next week's episode. I have been your host, Matthew Stein. You have been fantastic as always. Peace out, everybody.